Hello and welcome to CS230. Well, this is lesson 2 from lecture 4, and I'm going to continue on from the last lesson where we were looking at how we might look at different kinds of CSS techniques in order to be able to get this kind of styling effect on the corners of the div. So we have a nice border around the div element, it needs to be responsive, we want to have a different header and a different kind of footer, and we like to make that happen. And in our last example, we looked at how we might achieve something along these lines by styling the div element itself as some kind of wrapper, and also then using the label tag just to try to get the header inside. You know, the label was for this piece here, and we used the label element that sits within the div element and styling that, and we positioned that absolutely at the top left, gave it green, make it, I made it white actually. So if we look at our example that we had here, this was it looking nice. Here we are, this is it, looked fine. Okay, but if we just use the label, then we don't have a label for the bottom right, so we have nothing here to manipulate. So it means that we're going to have to find a way to insert content before the div and insert content after the div, and that will allow us to be able to manipulate that content and position that content. So there's two things there. We need to create our wrapper, and we need to be able to get the content. And the way to get the content is to add that content as an attribute on the tag or the element surrounding the text that you're interested in highlighting. In this particular case, it's a div element, has all of this lorem ipsum text. We're going to wrap it, and now we're going to say, well, the title at the top will be title. So now we know that we have an attribute. And I mentioned yesterday that it's possible to use the attribute selector, HTTR here, on this particular attribute name, data title. We could have called it anything. We could have called it data header, data footer, whatever we wanted, and that would be fine. And then we style, so actually, and then you'll notice the before pseudo element here, and we're going to add this to the wrapper, okay? And we're also going to say that the wrapper only applies to div elements, okay? So it's a class for div elements, and then all wrappers have this before element, and it'll pick up this piece of information and display it. So we should be able to, this is written already, so we should be able to save this. We've changed it to hello, okay, and we should load the document here. And now we have this one here, okay? Let's only change it in this one here. This one still has title, okay? So let's just change that back again. Okay, so that has the same effect as the last time. We're using some of the information we used, but now we're dynamically inserting the content before the div using the pseudo element before. Now we can do the exact same thing to get a footer. So let's do this. Let's make it after. And we could actually have the top, if we use the same title, data title, then that's fine. So we can save this, and oh, we want to have the bottom and right. So that helps with the positioning here of this one. Save it. Let's look at reloading it, and now we have our title that we've picked up. Now we see we probably need to have some padding here as well, so it's not clear. We could fix the padding at some point if we wanted. I haven't we can fix that here if we want, but we can do that again. What's more important is we get this. So let's now say we want to have different headers and footers, so we can change it to say data header is this title, and it's header, and we can have data, we create a new attribute, data footer, and we just call that footer. So that's nice too. And let's just apply that to both of our tabs, our divs, sorry. Okay, so we have a data header, a data footer. Now we're going to look at the data footer here, and we change this to data header, and so now we have a before pseudo element that takes the attribute header and inserts it, places the top left. We have a footer using the after attribute, and it uses the footer information and places it at the bottom, and that means they could be different. Let's see if that worked for us. Yep. So here we have header in the top left, footer in the bottom right, header in the top left, footer in the bottom right, and we can change whatever one. You know, we can call this here now, and it shows that we can wrap these things around each other nicely. And as if we move the window size, we see that they're responsive and it looks nice. The only thing that needs to be fixed is we need to watch the padding that happens. And so you'd have to look at this statement here that tells you a little bit about the padding. So we can tell us about the thickness of the padding area. It's omitted, it's the same as the right. We can have a look at this and change it as an exercise perhaps. Okay, or in here. Yeah. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I think that's everything we really need to take with this this particular one. One of the things that we really need to look at, I guess, is if we go back to that Learn CSS layout here, you'll find, let me go back, if I can bring this across so we have a good look. We go back to the table of contents here, look at the display property. It's about, they were having the difference, telling us about the difference between blocks, inline blocks, and inline display and block display. So block display, and you can see here's a block, and you can see they're using different headers and footers. What was nice is that they gave an example of a span, which was an inline display, and that was here. And I think in the next lesson we'll have a look at how we might do this kind of inline highlighting. Again, that doesn't disrupt the flow of the paragraph. And this is a really excellent resource on learning CSS layout. You can go to learnlayout.com. In terms of display, and it has all the stuff you'd like to be able to do and get a sense of how these things work. Lots and lots of fun stuff. I'm particularly interested, for example, in flex boxes, which allow you to do all sorts of flexible arrangements, and it's nice, and it's definitely worth having a look at. But for now, this is our code. What's important to realize and remember in this particular one is that we're able to, the key features are, we were able to create a wrapper around the element that we were interested in applying the styles to. We were able to add some data elements associated with that particular style, and we do that by creating attributes, and we can give the attributes any name we like, and try to give something that makes sense. Here we had a header one, and we had a footer one, and then once that happened, we needed to create the wrapper around this, and we can change everything around this. We can easily make it red. Like you'll notice in the other example that they had a nice yellow box at one point as well. And but you might want to highlight, make this a little bit different. Save this and reload. Okay, where's our? I made a mistake here. Okay, there's red. So we didn't get the box. So you can change and have different styles and all that kind of stuff if you want. And so that's fine. And then we use the before attribute to insert this piece of content, and we tell it where to position it absolutely relative to the outer container. Hence the position being absolute here. We give it all its padding, all the font aspects, and the position. If we actually say that the position is absolute, then we have to actually give it an absolute position. We're telling it where to position it. And then we have the data extracted using the attribute selector here. And that tells us the content that we want to insert at the beginning and at the end of the element of interest. Okay, we leave it there, and as I said, we'll move on and have a look at trying to get that nice inline element now, and how we might style the inline elements. They're also used for tooltips, and we'll see that in the next lesson. Thank you very much.